Ndị be anyị ekenekwanụ m unu. Anyị sị ka nkonye chiri ya zalụkwa. Anyị si ndụ mmiri ndụ azụ. Mmiri atara m azụ anwụna. Anyị dịka o si dị ya bụ Easter News 24 ka anyị si were wetara ya bụ ozi. Unu jega ịnụ ugbu a n'iru akwụkwọ gbasịta maka ya bụ ifu na anụ na-eme n'obodo nọ n'ime ya anụ nwere onwe ndị Igbo na-azọ. Anyị n'ụbọchị nke taata anụ nwanne anyị nwoke wetara ya ozi, one of the Biafran activists, and he quote, "Breaking news, Asolok in panic. Simon Ekpa tears down Bianca Ojukwu in court. They reveal the hidden truth about the release order. Hear the news in details." All right, I have opened also when ke wetara ya bụ ozi eji maka ya wee bịa dịka isi kwunu nkwana gị wetara na update n'iru akwụkwọ gbasịta maka ebe ife na-eme n'obodo nọ n'ime ya anụ nwere onwe ndị Igbo na-azọ. Ebikọta ntị na dịka ihe wetara ya bụ ife kunu gee ị ga-esi ebe ife kabaro keri ya tia n'ihe niile anyị kwuru n'iru akwụkwọ. All right, over to you, sir.
Court section started with the judge rendering a brief and quick remark on how the court section today would look like and play out. After the speech, the prosecuting lawyer started by thanking the judge. He also informed the judge that he will be bringing up his fourth witness. This witness is an officer from the NBI, which also means the National Bureau of Investigations. The prosecuting lawyer called up the officer codenamed T4, which probably might mean testifier 4. Or testifier number 4. He asked T4 to take the stand. T4 walked up to the stand and did all necessary rites needed to be done. The prosecuting lawyer asked T4, "Who are you and why are you here today?" T4 replied, "I work with the NBI and I'm here to testify against the suspect," while pointing at Simon, who was seated with his lawyer. "You said you work for the NBI?" the prosecuting lawyer asked. "Yes," replied the officer codenamed T4. "In what capacity, if I may ask?" The officer said, "I headed the unit that thoroughly investigated this man here," while pointing at Simon, who was seated calmly. The prosecuting lawyer asked T4, "After investigating him, what did you find?" "Well, we found a lot of evidence. In fact, we found chains of evidence that we managed to gather in less than 4 months." The prosecuting lawyer replied by saying, "Are you going to present your findings to us today?" T4 replied by stating, "Definitely." The prosecuting lawyer asked, "Are these documents the authentic or just photocopies?" T4 said, "I have with me some duplicate copies, but if the court wants the original, I will furnish the court without any form of hesitation." Well, before we continue with what played out in the courtroom afterwards, let's do some quick analysis. Hope you guys are paying attention on what is playing out in the courtroom. An officer was brought before the court to give testimonies that will be used against Simon. We noticed that the prosecuting lawyer is just wasting time by asking irrelevant questions. Maybe he's trying to mount pressure on Simon and the legal counsel team, or maybe he's trying to buy time for himself. We will definitely find out. Let's go back to the courtroom and see what followed suit afterwards. Back in the courtroom, the prosecuting lawyer asked T4, "From your investigations, what can you say about this man?" asked the prosecuting lawyer. "This man is a terrorist," replied T4. At this point, Simon and his legal counsel team got really angry, and this is when full-scale drama played out in the courtroom. The prosecuting lawyer asked again, "Do you think this man is innocent?" Simon's lawyer stood up and said, "My lord, these people don't have anything meaningful to present to us in this court. This man has been asking a lot of irrelevant questions. I can't sit here and let this nonsense continue. My client has been very angry and would like to speak." Yes, let's do some quick analysis, just in case you don't understand. Things are getting intense in the courtroom. Simon's lawyer has informed the court that Simon would want to say a word or two because he is not too satisfied with the accusations coming from the witness, codenamed T4. Well, let's go back to the courtroom and see what's played out. Simon stood up and walked to the stands. At this point, nobody knew what he had in mind. Nobody knew the intentions or the goals of Simon. Simon entered the stands. He was sworn in as a testimonial and not a witness. The judge gave Simon the permission to speak, and what he said was very, very emotional. Let's listen. Simon kicked off by saying, "Your Honor, members of the jury, my family, and my friends, I stand before you today accused of a crime that I did not commit. The weight of these false accusations crushes me. To be labeled a terrorist, a threat to society, is a burden heavier than any chains. My heart aches with the injustice of it all. I have always strived to live a life of peace, of service, of love for my community. The evidence presented, I believe, will show that this accusation is a cruel misunderstanding, a tragic error. I trust in the fairness of this court, and I pray that the truth will prevail. My faith in justice remains unshaken, even in the face of this overwhelming adversity. Thank you. At this point, there were full-scale silence in the courtroom because nobody was expecting this to play out like it just did. Let's do some quick analysis. As you can all see and hear, Simon has rendered a speech nobody was expecting, not even Tifo, the NBI officer. We all believe that if Simon takes the stand, he will probably quarrel with the prosecuting lawyer, but that was not the case at all. He came in, made a short, emotional speech, and left the whole court in silence. And this was a perfect opportunity for Simon's lawyer to jump in and change the atmosphere, which he did. Let's go back to the courtroom and see what followed suit immediately after Simon rendered that heartwarming speech. Back in the courtroom, Simon's lawyer stood up and said, "My lord, as you can see, my client here is very, very sober because of the way and manner he has been treated over time in detention. My client here is innocent and he would like to cross-examine T4, who claims to be an officer from the NBI. The prosecuting lawyer stood up immediately and objected a request coming from Simon's lawyer. The judge replied by saying, "The suspect has the right to cross-examine the witness. In fact, the accused or suspect. This is an essential part of ensuring a fair trial and allowing the defense to challenge the evidence presented against them." The judge gave Simon the green light to cross-examine the officer. Let's do some quick analysis. As you can see, for the very first time, the Court of Law has granted Simon the permission and the authority to cross-examine a witness brought before the courtroom today. That is to say, Simon will cross-examine T4, a man who is an officer from the NBI, which simply means an officer from the National Bureau of Investigation. So Simon has this ample opportunity to cross-examine this officer and get info from him, deduce info and data from this man, and also know the level of fact and evidence he has, or the document he has that he wants to use against Simon. This is where things got really, really interesting. The conversation had between Simon and this officer is very, very intense and remarkable. This is something you wouldn't want to miss at any point. So if you find this video interesting, please do well to subscribe and turn on post notifications. Thanks. Let's go back to the courtroom and see what followed suit. After the court granted Simon the green light, he started by saying, "Thank you, my lord, for instituting my right as an accused. Thank you, and I appreciate this kind gesture." Simon continued. Simon started by saying, "Tifo, you stated repeatedly that I am a terrorist. Is that correct?" T4 replied by saying, "Yes, based on the evidence gathered during the investigation. That is my professional assessment." Simon continued by saying, "Your professional assessment? Is that what you call it? You've labeled me, a man who has lived peacefully in this country for decades, a terrorist? What specific actions led you to this conclusion?" T4 continued by saying, or replied by saying, "The evidence points to your involvement in planning and supporting activities that could be classified as such. We have evidence of your communications." Simon interrupted T4 by saying, "Communications? You mean the encrypted messages you claim I sent? Have you considered that those messages could be misinterpreted?" T4 replied by saying, "We have analyzed the context, the language used, the targets discussed. They are aligned with terrorist activities." Simon continued by saying, "Targets discussed. Are you referring to the online forum where I expressed frustration with the government?" Frustration, Mr. Tifo, is not terrorism. It's a right I exercise like many others. Did you find any evidence of actual violence, of attacks planned or executed by me? Tifo replied by saying, "The planning was evident in the coded language." Simon interrupted the Tifo by saying, "Guidance, or perhaps just sharing my opinion, my thoughts. Is that a crime now? Is it a crime to disagree with the government, to express anger?" Simon continued by saying, "So, my words, my opinions are now enough to brand me a terrorist. Have you considered the possibility that somebody or someone might be trying to frame me, that the messages could be fabricated or manipulated?" Tifo replied by saying, "We have considered all possibilities. Our analysis is thorough." Simon interrupted by saying, "Thorough or biased? Did you look at my life, my history, my community involvement? Did you speak to my neighbors, my friends, the people who know me?" Tifo replied by saying, "We spoke to those individuals." Simon continued by saying, "And what did they say? Did they paint me a picture of a terrorist or a man who loves his family, who helps the community, who has always strived to live a peaceful life?" Tifo pauses and continued by saying, "Some of them expressed surprise." Simon continued with, "Surprise? Because they know the truth, don't they? They know that I am not a monster you've painted me to be. So tell me, investigator, or T4 as they fondly call you in court, on what solid, undeniable evidence do you base your claim that I am a terrorist? Because from where I stand, it looks like you are trying to destroy my life based on assumptions, on interpretations, and on narrative that suits you. Before we continue, let's do a quick analysis of what we think is currently going on here. As you can see, that was a good showing from Simon. This man has confidently asked the right questions and defended and expressed himself. Wow, this clearly shows that Simon happens to be a lawyer. Yes, because this man runs and operates a law firm known as Ekpa and Co. This guy has shown that he is actually a lawyer by asking the right questions and defending himself perfectly, with no mistakes or without any form of errors. Wow, at this point, nobody knows what is coming next. But Simon follows suit by asking T4 to present documents to the courtroom. Let's go back to the courtroom and see what happened next. Simon continued by saying, Investigator T4, you've accused me of terrorism, specifically related to my online activities. Is that correct? T4 said, yes. Based on the investigation, the evidence points to your involvement in activities that could be classified as such. Simon continued by saying, and these documents, I presume, are the basis of your claims. T4 replied by saying, precisely. These documents contain transcripts of your online communications, financial records, and analysis of your online work. Simon continued by saying, let's start with the transcript. Can you specify which communications you deem as evidence of terrorist intent? T4 opens a file, pulls out a document, and brought out a paper or a pile of documents titled Exhibit A. And T4 continued by saying, this is a transcript of a private message exchange where you discussed acquiring arms and targeting government buildings. Simon replied by saying, discussed? Investigator, are you suggesting I was actively planning to attack government-owned building, or are you interpreting a hypothetical conversation? Can you show me any evidence that I actually acquired those materials? T4 brought out a different pile of documents titled Exhibit B. He said, these are financial records showing several large transfers to individuals known to be involved in that groups. Simon replied by saying, and how do you know these individuals are involved in extremist groups? What is the nature of these groups? Can you provide evidence of my knowledge of their alleged activities? These transfers were for my businesses and not for any other thing else. T4 presents another document titled Exhibit C. He said, analysis of your online network showing you were a key node in a network that shared criminal propaganda and incited violence. Simon replied by saying, propaganda? Yes. Incitement? No. Can you show me specific instances where I directly called for violence? Did I directly command anyone to commit any violent act? T4 retrieves a document titled Exhibit D. This is a document showing the link between your online activities and the real-world attacks. Simon replied by saying, I see. So you are saying that my online activity caused these attacks? Did you find any direct link? Or did you just find that the perpetrators may have read my posts? What evidence do you have that my words were the direct cause of these actions? T4, which is the officer from the NBI, remained calm. And he continued by saying, the evidence suggests a clear pattern of influence and incitement. Simon continued by saying, influence perhaps, but influence is not a crime. I am a writer, and I have the right to express my opinions, even if they are unpopular. Incitement requires a direct call to action, which, as you have shown, is not present in this document. The documents you present, while they may be concerning, do not prove that I committed any crime. And these are the exact words coming from Mr. Simon. Interestingly, the whole conversation between Simon and T4, the officer from the NBI, went on and on.
All right, guys. So I know very well that a lot of individuals have been saying that Simon Ekpa's next court appearance is going to be on the 11th. But it surprised you that on the 4th there was a court sittings, and that is exactly what you just heard and what you've seen. Right. So at this junction, I want to say thank you very much for sticking with us, and I want to also encourage you to please subscribe and turn on the post notification bell to stay updated on informations about Biafran matters and as well Nigeria in general.
For that wonderful question, Bianca of this good platform. First and foremost, I want to say, someone has come out to say, or has at life outlined countless times that he said that the Nigerian government cannot win Biafra with a barrel of gun for the second time. Now when he said that, see, Nigerian government cannot win Biafra with a barrel of gun, it means that nobody needs to die for them to exit Nigeria. Now, Ojukwu fought Biafra in a different dimension. Now, Mazen Kanu did it via his own dimension. So Ekpa is taking it globally. And now, we've seen world body recognize Biafra. We've seen the UN and then some other global body have come out to endorse the Biafra struggle. So kudos to him, it is a plus. Some persons have come out to say that Samonekpa should be discredited, the likes of Ohanes Ndigbo and that of the Southeastern governors. But my question is that you said Samonekpa should not be taken serious. Then who should be taken serious? The government who is not willing to protect our people? Is it the people who have refused to speak up when the Igbo man has been marginalized in the country? Is it the same governors who have become a tools in the hands of their Fulani master? So for you to even have a character like Samonekpa and Nnamdi Kanu to have come out to say enough is enough, that we are tired of this contraption called one Nigerians. It shows that these people have this mindset that, see, they can no longer be the slave. So for him to have even gone as far as to hire lobbyists that will speak on behalf of Biafra in the world in the UN summit, to me it's a plus, and that alone, the voice of Biafrans will be heard globally, and the voice of an Igbo man is also being heard globally. Now let me take it back the line. When Southern Sudan and South Sudan wanted parted ways, nobody killed each other. Nobody go through the route of violence. It was done amicably. So Samonekpa is doing it amicably for him to convince world leaders that this thing is possible. And why the government of the day, the present government of Nigeria, are not seeing it that way. Thank you. You can also to the government, to the Nigerian government, be worried about people. Why would they be worried? The same people have sent assassins to kill Samonekpa. Now only he has escaped. So see, one thing about it is that the government of the day, they are panicking. There's panic. You know what it is now? Say a particular tribe or a major tribe to exit your country. You know how an Igbo man is. You know the investment of an Igbo man is in the country. Now imagine in Nigeria without an Igbo man. Let's just imagine that. I mean, that means the Hausa man would now dominate virtually every government perspective in Nigeria. So now the reason why the Igbo man is still believe that's Nigeria is because the Igbo man is still in the contraption called Nigeria. But eventually, if the Igbo man leaves, my brother, the Yoruba man will know the true meaning of Nigeria, and then we don't know who owns Nigeria. Just like what Angwabula said, he said they are not scared of the Igbos parting, exiting Nigerians. That was what he said. He said they are not scared. Indirectly, that means the other tribe would not have sense of belonging in the country, and we know it. I know it too. And every man now has the spirit of dominance. You cannot dominate him. If a Fulani man has the spirit of dominance, for you to dominate him, it will take ages. In terms of population, you cannot dominate them. So one thing is that Ojukwu foreseen this whole thing. That was why he championed this Biafra struggle. And now, gradually, it is now becoming a reality in this contraction called Nigeria. Now, there are some Igbo men, some women are even tired of the system called Nigeria, just because they feel their brother is still in president. Now, my brother, I can bet you, come 2027, the Yorubas will be championing the Ojukwu Republic more than the Igbo man. I can bet you that. That I am very certain of. Yes, we will championing because it is certain when their president, when their brother is being kicked away from the presidency, already there is a plot, and which he himself cannot escape. The president himself knows that there's a plot, and then the big shots in the north are formed alliance. You know it. RFI, a powerful influence in the north, is not in the league. Sorry, is not in good terms with the president. And now nobody can take that factor. What RFI did, or see that made President Tinubu emerge as the president via his own influence. And then we have also the likes of Angulai, which is the chairman of the Northern Order Forum. He said, post that election, that the Northern Order Forum supported Tinubu, but come 2027, Tinubu will not get their support. So what does that mean? Now, so now, if the average left person is not giving the vote, now where will they get the vote? It should come by 2027. The same thing the Yorubas have tagged the votes for. Now they will be the master mind of it, because I can bet you by 2027 Yoruba will stop. And that's the slogan that will continue to trend, is that we are tired of the country, we want to follow the suit of the government and exit the country. And then the government now will not take them, tag them for being unserious, because now that the government is championing for the exit, we are saying the government is not serious. There are claims that the
ndị ba ngwadalụ ri nenu dịka unu si wee gee ya bụ ife wetelu n'ụbọchị uruchi nke taa. Anyị ga-anapụ unu kụnri ya ati ya gbasịta maka ya bụ ife ndị a niile ụmụnna wetara anyị. Gwa ifu nche n'udo nke unu. Ngwanụ ka emesịa na ụmụnne m.